I was watching Frasier yesterday.
Uh-huh.
And spoiler for Frasier fans, it was one of the episodes where the dad gets into a fight with his girlfriend, and the girlfriend ends up getting into a fight with Daphne, and they're arguing, and Niles is like, or maybe it is Frasier, he's like complaining that they're arguing, and goes, "You stop arguing like that. You both sound like fishwives." And my dad's like, "I don't even understand that." And I was like, "I do. And I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to listen to my podcast."
Welcome to Butter No Parsnips. Every week on Butter No Parsnips, your hosts Kyle Imperatore and Emily Moyers take you on an adventure through the weird, wacky, wonderful, and sometimes even wicked world of one wayside word. Strange characters, delightful bits, and general joyousness abound. Join them as they test each other's etymological expertise.
Isn't that so funny? I was like,
that's great.
How would anybody know what this means?
Well, they'd listen to episode whatever of Butter No Parsnips.
They had to wait, 10, 20 years?
Speaking of which, Kyle.
Yes.
Welcome to another episode whatever of Butter No Parsnips.
Another episode? Since when?
Since right now. I'm Emily in this episode of Butter No Parsnips.
And I am Jeff, but I go by Kyle in this episode of Butter No Parsnips.
Okay, we just have to know that you identify as Jeff?
Yeah, but just in this episode.
All right.
Okay.
Well, Kyle, I understand that Jeff has prepared a word for this episode.
Jeff has prepared a word for this episode. And
right. Can you pass it along to me for Jeff?
I'm going to pass it along to you, Emily, just right now.
All right.
And that word is Autoschediasm.
Oh, no. Autoschediasm?
Yeah, I'll spell it for you.
Boy, you're not pulling any punches.
I'm not pulling any punches. Autoschediasm is spelled Autoschediasm. Autoschediasm.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So, I mean, the prefix auto means it's like something to the self, right?
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I want to say like the asm part of it means it's like an event, right? It's like something that happens.
Yeah. In a general way. Yes.
Okay. But the middle of the word, I'm not sure what to do with.
Yeah. The skedia.
The skedia.
That is the hard part.
Yeah, to, like know what the word means.
Yeah.
Boy. So can you give me a language of origin, a country of origin?
Yeah, I will say that it is borrowed from Greek.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And it is a noun. It is a noun.
Yeah.
Solely.
Yeah. Roughly what era? I know that's not going to help me, but I'll ask.
I believe that it comes from Greek from a long time ago.
Sure.
It came to English, I think, in the 1800s.
Okay.
I think. It's been a difficult word to research.
Not a lot of intel?
Yeah. Well, there is intel out there, but not a lot of people have talked about this word, interestingly.
Okay. It's a secret word.
It's a secret word.
It's a taboo.
And the password is Autoschediasm. God, Betty White would just go crazy if that was the word that she got on password.
Oh, wow. Autoschediasm? I mean, Kyle, I have no idea.
I didn't think you would.
No, but I got parts of it.
You did,
I feel accomplished in that. Yeah,
absolutely. It's kind of a funny word, like etymologically, and you'll see why.
That's what this is all about.
Yeah, that's what this is all about. So the word means something that is improvised or extemporized, as in something that is done offhand, like an improvisation.
Oh.
Is an autoschediasm.
Wow. So like an improv show would be an autoschediasm?
In a sense, yes. I don't think you would use...
A long-form autoschediasm?
Yeah, a long form. I think it's more used for like something done on the fly.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I
think
you could...
like if you're having some kind of problem and you like make a makeshift solution?
Yes.
Like a jerry rig?
Yes. I would say the act of you doing that is an autoschediasm.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The origin of the word's kind of interesting because it comes from, there was a word in Greek, skidon, which means close by, and auto meant self, same.
Yeah.
So they put it together to create this adverb, autoschedon, which means near at hand. So something that's just close by.
So just using what's at hand.
Yeah, and so it ended up, they transformed it into an adjective, autoschedios, meaning hand-to-hand fighting, but also improvisation, because it's something that is just like you're reaching out for a word and it's nearby, it's at hand.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting that it meant both improvisation and hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, right?
You wouldn't think there was like overlap there.
You really get, I mean, when you're talking about philosophy with these ancient Greeks and Romans, they could just do whatever the heck they want,
Absolutely.
They probably, hand-to-hand fighting did mean the same thing as as having a conversation on the fly,
Yeah. Hey, listen, let's go have a conversation improvisationally.
Yeah.
Outside.
Yeah. So, autoschediasm, from what I could learn, autoschediastic or autoschediastical came to English before autoschediasm in at least the mid-1600s.
Okay,
and it was
an adjective first?
Yeah, and it was used mainly in referencing ancient Greek and Latin texts. And they usually used it to describe the dividing line between what was real and what was a tall tale. So, like, when you're talking about ancient Greeks having a conversation in a story, whether or not that actually happened or not, they might describe that as autoschediastical.
Okay.
The idea of whether or not those were real conversations that were being had or kind of fictionalized but assumed as real,
Sure.
But there was also another word that came to English, skediasm, and that in English meant like a whim or a caprice.
Oh.
But it was specifically used to describe cursory writing, specifically on a loose sheet of paper. So like scrap paper, something that you would just write on a piece of scrap paper, they would call a skediasm.
Oh, so like little, like scribbled notes.
Yeah, notes that you would keep for yourself.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah, isn't that fun that there's just kind of like a lot of facets to the origin?
Yeah, there's like a lot of different meanings, but that are like tangential. Like they're all kind of dancing around that same idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Of like something being spur of the moment.
Yeah. So skediasm, it seems, autoschediasm, came to English as a hyphenated word first, which makes it seem like it came from skediasm and not autoschediastical.
Right.
But it's a little muddy here. But now I want to talk to you about the person who, it seems, brought autoschediasm to the English language.
Good. I'm excited to meet him.
This is a man named Charles Kingsley, Emily. We're going to talk about his early life just for a tad.
Charles Kingsley.
Charles Kingsley.
It's a character from Downton Abbey, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that he was not only a character from Downton Abbey, but probably a character in every period drama.
Any period English drama.
Yeah. Oh.
He was in it somewhere.
That show ain't worth its salt until it gets a Charles Kingsley on.
Yeah. And, like, it is canonically the same character. Like, the things that happened to him in Downton Abbey also happened to the man that appeared in Game of Thrones.
Yes. It's just the same man. Finally, they've jumped the Charles Kingsley. So, Charles Kingsley was a social reformer and a novelist in the 1800s, but he started his career as what was called a broad church priest of the Church of England.
Oh, and he was also in Broadchurch.
And he was also in Broadchurch, yes. Mm-hmm. The Broadchurch is like a term meaning a person who is like tolerant of a wide range of opinions. It's used in modern English to like reference religious liberalism, but in British politics, it's used in a similar fashion to what we would call as big tent in American politics.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, just encompassing a wide range of opinions.
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
Charles Kingsley was a healthy and witty young lad. who was well respected and admired in college. I mean, throughout his life, he was well respected and admired. But there's some notes from his college days.
I'm picturing him in like a real slim suit with a top hat and a cane, just like skippity-dooing down the road.
Skippity-dooing. Now, Emily, if you had to describe skippity-dooing, what's the motion there?
It's like you're not fully skipping. You're just walking with like a little pep in your step.
A little pep in your step.
Maybe you do a little jump every once in a while. It's just like slightly eccentric.
Yeah.
You know?
yeah. It's a part of the silly walks ministry.
Yeah, it falls under it is registered with the
skippity-dooing
Ministry for Silly Walks.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned walking because a story about him from his college days is that one day he walked 52 miles from Cambridge to London.
Oh.
And
he walked a double marathon?
Yeah, and he liked walking so much that he would walk 20 to 25 miles as a refreshment.
As a refreshment?
Yes.
For how long?
Whatever 20 to 25 miles would be for Charles Kingsley.
Literally.
Yeah. He liked walking a lot.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and he was like fit and into, I guess, keeping fit, and whatever that meant in the 1800s.
Okay. So now in my head, he's wearing spandex.
But still the top hat.
Yes, still a top hat and cane.
Yeah.
But just in like lycra.
Yeah. So in 1842, he wrote a letter to an Oxford friend, and the letter was like very meandering. It was kind of all over the place. He wrote a lot, and he was very good at writing. But at the end of this letter, he says this. Pardon autoschediasms of paper and obscurity of style, for I have walked 10 miles down the Cam today, pike fishing and back, and have been sleeping in an armchair dead tired. My panacea for stupidity and overmentation is a day in a roaring fen wind.
I love all of that.
So basically, he went to college for theology. And so, like, after he would spend his day, like, thinking about, like, philosophy, his medicine was just spending a day out in the wild.
Oh, so he liked to get out in nature.
Yeah. And he was a real fun guy.
Yeah, in his spandex and top hat and cane.
Yeah, lycra, yeah.
Walking around with, like, Richard Simmons energy.
Yeah.
Just like, hey,
hello! Do those squats!
Do your skippity-doodling.
You're skippity-doodling. And his friends are like, Charles, what's going on here?
Sitting having tea by a brook, and he's like,
Charles,
all right,
how dare you? And he's like, lift those weights! 1, 2, 3.
We are very on the edge here, Kyle.
I know. All right. So anyway, he was a fun guy. A famous anecdote from his school days, all right, is that he took this mechanics exam, and one of the questions asked him to describe a common pump, which I guess for whatever reason he decided not to, and instead drew a picture of a pump in a crowded town square surrounded by, and I quote, this is by the person who graded his exam.
Yeah.
The pump was surrounded by women and children of all ages, shapes, dress, and sizes, each carrying a crock, a jug, a bucket, or some vessel large or small, while around the pump itself was a huge chain padlocked and surrounded by a notice, "This pump locked during divine service." I guess to make a joke about how they wouldn't let people use the pumps until after church was done.
So funny.
Yeah. And they make a point to say that they don't know what he got as a grade for that answer. But they remember that test answer.
I hope he got an A. That's so funny.
He must have, right?
But I mean, that makes sense. This is the kid. Charles Kingsley did not like being in the classroom. He was an outdoor kid.
Yeah.
He kind of struggled with all that, sitting still and doing exams.
Yes, exactly.
And he was like, I'll just draw a picture.
I'll just, you know what? Here's your answer. All right. It's good enough.
Please grade this.
You know that I know what a pump is.
Pardon my autoschediasms. He's my hero.
He is your hero. Well, Emily, this is just to explain his personal background, but his professional background as an author started in 1848 with a novel Yeast.
Yeast?
Yeast. Which was his attack on Roman Catholicism.
And he called it Yeast?
Yeast. And it was a novel.
Explain!
I don't know a ton about the story of Yeast. He was against Roman Catholicism and its views on celibacy, amongst other things, because he felt that England's social system kept the poor agricultural labor class oppressed. So this was the start of his kind of social reform opinions.
He just thought we all need to be banging.
Yeah.
And that's gonna solve the socioeconomic divide.
That's gonna fix everything. Let's just get it on. That was the first of his novels. His most well-known work came in 1855. It was a historical novel called Westward Ho, with an exclamation point. And it was based on the experiences of Elizabethan privateer Ammias Preston's travels to the New World with Francis Drake and Walter Raleigh.
Oh, like Sir Walter Raleigh?
Sir Walter Raleigh.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I'm enthralled.
This was also anti-Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
He was very anti-Catholic, amongst other things.
I'm getting that picture.
But this novel became so well known that a village in Devon is named Westward Ho, exclamation point and all, and it's the only place in the UK that contains an exclamation point.
I mean, absolutely, because no place should contain an exclamation point.
Why would they? Yeah.
Westward Ho, Devon.
But it was, I guess, a really well-known novel. But not what we're here to talk about today.
I mean, good luck dragging me away from it, but go ahead.
It gets better, Emily. It gets better.
Oh, no.
So, at some point, Kingsley, being such a well-respected individual as a writer and a thinker, was sent an advance copy of Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species.
Okay.
And he gave a positive review of this, which was striking considering his proximity to the church.
Okay.
And he states that he had long since, from watching the crossing of domesticated animals and plants, learnt to disbelieve the dogma of the permanence of species in his review. So this review that he gave on the Origin of Species started this lifelong campaign of Charles Kingsley's to defend Darwin's thoughts on evolution.
Oh.
And rationalize them within the confines of Christian thought and social revolution in England.
Okay.
Yeah, not where you thought this was going, huh?
No, this is a walk.
It is a walk, but this was like a big thing because he was one of very few, at least religious thinkers, who backed Charles Darwin's thoughts on evolution.
Sure.
And one of the things that he wrote that was kind of a clear indicator on how influenced he was by Charles Darwin's thoughts on evolution was a book called The Water Babies, A Fairy Tale for a Land Baby.
What?
And I'd like to focus on this book for a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah. The Muppet Babies were not a part of it, much to my chagrin. But I think...
What about a pup named Scooby-Doo?
A pup named Scooby-Doo actually is probably in it.
Okay, good. And Red Herring?
And Red Herring's in it. And I think...
Red Herring.
I think the babies from Look Who's Talking are in it. So Kingsley had previously written a children's book that became really popular, and it was called The Heroes. And it was based on Greek mythology.
Okay.
And although Westward Ho was also written for adults, somehow that became popular with children.
Okay.
Yeah, so by the time he wrote Water Babies, he already had, like, sympathy for children and kind of an audience with them in this kind of, like, Dickensian social reform way, where like, oh, we need to lift the children up, from where they stand in English society. We need to have some more thoughts, kind thoughts for the children.
And we should do that by writing about how all things fuck.
Yes, very much so.
Animals fuck, people should fuck.
They gotta have sex. I mean, it's a natural part of life, and
that's right.
I'm for it. if someone needs to be for this. So
it is a slippery slope, though.
It is a slippery slope, especially now that we're going to talk about babies. So
yeah. Joke over.
Joke over. It is over. This is new thing. So the plot of The Water Babies is as such. A young chimney sweep named Tom meets an upper-class girl named Ellie and is chased out of her house, whence he falls into a river where he drowns and is transformed into a water baby.
And what is a water baby? I know we all know this, but we should reiterate.
So, you know what? Let me explain more, and I think this will come to fruition. It's not a real thing, of course.
Sure.
So, when he dies and drowns and is transformed into a water baby, he embarks on a series of adventures towards moral redemption, led along by fairies like Mrs. Do As You Would Be Done By and Mrs. Be Done By As You Did. And he's accompanied by Ellie, who also became a water baby shortly after he did.
This is like ye olde Parent Trap.
Yes, ye old Parent Trap. Ye olde. It's okay, and so this all culminates in a final adventure to redeem his recently drowned abusive master, Grimes, earning Tom a reincarnation in human form as, I quote, a great man of science, being united with Ellie, finally, although they specify that they never marry because no one beneath the rank of prince and princess ever marry.
That's how this world works?
That's how this world works.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Also, the man's name was Grimes?
Grimes. I mean, that's why I say it was Dickensian, you know? It's like, just really like on-the-nose names for all the characters.
Yeah.
At the time of writing Water Babies, there was a lot of discourse on the theory of evolution, obviously, and it was mostly negative towards Darwin.
Right.
And this discourse was comically referred to as the Great Hippocampus Debate, because of the debate over the similarity between ape and human brains.
Okay.
In Water Babies, Kingsley parodies not Darwin's theory, as most people did at the time, as was mainstream, but he parodies that the refusal that the theory could even be possible, and he directly refers to this as the Great Hippopotamus Debate. And he uses fairy science as an analogy for evolution. I know this is a lot. It's wacky wildo stuff.
This is wacky wildo.
So the book features fantastical fairy-like animals, including larvae, beetles, and butterflies. And it's emphasizing Tom leaving his corporeal form to prepare for a physical and moral metamorphosis. So it's like all of these layers of metamorphosis in like, oh, you know, clearly like larvae metamorphosize into butterflies, just like apes can metamorphosize into humans, you know, through evolution. Like, it's real. Just believe it.
Right. You
just go on with it.
Just take my word for it. Me, Richard Simmons.
I swear it's real. So Tom is originally described as ape or mole-like, and starts the story as a water baby, which is just, I think, just a drowned baby. Like where babies go when they drown. Like how, like, when children die, they go to Neverland.
They become water babies.
Yeah, so he starts by talking with gnats, but as the story goes along, he, like, earns the right to talk to more advanced species, like dragonflies and sea snails, and then eventually Ellie and the other water babies.
Yeah, eventually he becomes full Aquaman.
Full Aquaman. He's
and
got
he can
Aquaman status. He's card carrying.
He's a card carrying Aquaman level water baby.
Yeah.
A water adult.
Yeah. So the opposite here is also true, though, where there's a race of idle humans called the Do-As-You-Likes who are on the brink of turning into apes because they have grown so stupid. And there's also a race called Tom Toddies. Their story is that they're so focused on their idol examination that they can sing a song about the examiner And they've had their brains so filled with water that they've turned into radishes. And all they can do is sing this song about the examiner.
And they're radishes?
And they get turned into radishes.
Amazing.
Because they're so focused on examination. I don't know what any of this means,
Kyle,
frankly.
This book is insane.
It's insane.
Just,
I know.
Every turn is a left.
I know. And it never ends up in the back where it began. So.
And this is meant to promote Darwinism?
Promote Darwinism and social reform for children. So the whole book represents Victorian social anxieties over the degeneration of the lower class. So at the time they were like, oh, the poor, we hate the poor, and they're just dirty, dirty people. But he was saying that, wealth comes not from, who you are, your standing in life, but from your moral attributes. And that, he was saying that people could become better people by being better to children, in a sense.
Sure.
Here's the ending of the book, Emily.
Okay, I'm
In
ready.
the end, the fairies who have helped Tom along the way are revealed with, I quote, a clear, white, blazing light to all be the same person, which is an analogy for divine intervention. And Tom's physical evolution from almost ape to man of science is revealed to have hinged upon his moral and spiritual transformation here.
Yeah, it was within him all along.
It was within him all along.
Wow, he never needed the ruby slippers.
He never needed the ruby radishes.
He never needed the ruby radishes.
Yeah. So
there's no place like the water.
Yeah. So, Emily, that was Autoschediasm, a word that started about myths and tall tales, and it was brought to us to English by a guy who created his own tall tale and somehow
Charles
defended
Kingsley.
evolution.
A crazy, crazy man who wrote crazy, crazy books. Gosh, I mean, I love the word, and I'm going to try to use it every time I scribble down a note, because that's fantastic.
Autoschediasms.
And we're going to go to Westward Ho, Devon, for sure.
For sure, without a doubt.
And I'm going to read Water Babies just to figure out what the fuck it's about.
It's really fun. Some of it's really fun, but I think it's like Lewis Carroll in some aspects where it's like,
yeah,
you're not supposed to understand that this makes sense.
Yeah, it sounds like that level of absurdism.
Yeah.
Just a crazy word, but great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Emily, so now I've got a game for you.
A game?
A game? The game is called...
We love games.
We do love games here. We're a game-playing group of people.
We are.
The game is called Autoschediadlibs.
Oh, that was actually my first thought when you were describing Skippity-asm. I was like, it's like ad-lib.
It is very much like ad-libs, yeah. On something near at hand, whatever you have near at hand.
Or indeed like Mad Libs.
Like Mad Libs, very much. And like Mad Libs, Emily, I had you come up with words that filled this list of descriptors that I sent you.
Yes, and I gave you some of my best work. Not all of my best work, but some of it.
But some of it, and it is some real good stuff.
All right.
And I've entered that best work into the introduction for Charles Kingsley's The Water Babies.
The Water Babies, our new favorite novel.
Our new favorite novel, and this, I think, will be our new favorite novel, so everybody tuck into your little beds so you get...
Are you sitting comfortably?
We're going to get comfy for our late night, our little bedtime. And I'll tell you the story of the grass puberties. Once upon a time, there was a little candlestick maker, and his name was Thelma. That is a dubious name, and you have heard it before, so you will not have much trouble in galumphing it. He lived in a great town in the Long Island Duck, where there were plenty of skittles to ooze, and plenty of weddings for Thelma to earn, and his giraffe tamer to spend. As for candlestick maker, and being flowery, and being cancelled,
Oh.
He took all that for the way of the world, like the snow and sleet and oobleck, and stood flatulently with his back to it till it was over, as his old African crested porcupine did, to a literally raining cats and dogs. And then shook his teeth and was as Kyle-esque as ever, and thought of the slanderous times coming when he would be a radish and a master candlestick maker, and sit in the Auntie Anne's kiosk with a quart of unsweetened oat milk and a long, unsweetened oat milk, and play Hear Hear for silver Monopoly dollars.
Whoa!
And wear socks and shoes.
Hear, hear!
Hear, hear! Yeah! And wear socks and shoes and keep a puce prehensile-tailed porcupine with one ecru left pinky toenail and carry her porcupets in his pocket, just like a disposable mask that you've been wearing way too long.
Kyle, did you look up what a baby porcupine is called?
I did. Can you believe that it's a porcupet?
I knew that already. That's how I knew you got it right.
I had no idea. Here's the ending. Yes, there were astrological times coming, and when his giraffe tamer let him have a pull at the leavings of his unsweetened oat milk, Thelma was the oldest, and I mean oldest, parsnip in the whole Westward Ho, Devon, UK.
Amazing.
Well worth.
So that's how the novel starts. The real novel, Water Babies.
The real novel, The Crass Puberties, by Charles Kingsley.
Amazing.
Amazing. Emily, what great penmanship you have. Thank you for your contributions to this novel.
And thank you for teaching me about what the hell is this word? Autoschediasm.
Autoschediasm.
I'm really going to remember it, I swear.
Truly going to remember it.
Well, I'm Emily. That's the one thing I do remember.
And I do remember I'm Kyle. And thank you guys for showing up and hanging out with us. We'll see you soon. Sayonara.
Butter no parsnips.
Butter 'em up.
Thank you for listening to Butter No Parsnips. Butter No Parsnips is produced by Seth Gliksman, Emily Moyers, and Kyle Imperatore. The theme music and additional music is by Kyle Imperatore. If you liked listening to this episode, subscribe and give us a good rating and or positive review wherever you heard it. If you really liked listening, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/butternoparsnips. There you can get bonus content you can't get anywhere else, like the monthly Patreon exclusive podcast Buttered Parsnips, where this month Kyle and Emily talk about the origins of the show and the meaning of its title. Your support means the world to us and encourages us to keep making more. Thanks in advance, and we'll be back next week.